Hello, social workers, mental health professionals, and change agents. Welcome to another episode of the Social Work Rants podcast. I'm your host, Bass Moreno. Saludos a todos. Greetings, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, tapping in wherever you're watching or listening to this podcast. Gracias a todos por su apoyo. Yes, I still got a mask on. Hopefully, by the time this episode ends, I'll be completely cured from COVID and beat it in style and profile going into Thanksgiving with COVID free. So y'all keep me uh, keep sending those good vibes over to me so I'll beat it. That being said, you can follow the podcast on all social media platforms on Instagram at the Social Work Ranch Podcast, on Twitter, X at Social Work Ranch, and Facebook, aka Meta at the Social Work Ranch Podcast. Hit that like button, and of course the YouTube channel. Hit that red subscribe button. Type in the Social Rants Podcast. Hit subscribe. However you listen to podcasts, rate the podcast, review the podcast, share podcasts. Tell a friend, tell a friend. Podcast hoodies and t-shirts are available at triumphthroughpain.myshopify.com. So uh, that being said, my guests at this time, the beauty of social media, uh, met on Instagram, talk back and forth, and here we are today. Jillian Knight, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing better than you with COVID, but I've been there, so it's rough. I don't, I hope not to get it again, but
Yeah,
otherwise I'm
definitely.
doing good. Thanks for having me.
Don't know, of course. I definitely do not want to get this again. At least I had it like mild enough that I thought it was just a earache infection or some infection, but it ended up being COVID. But it is what it is. It is still out there, it's still a threat, still causing havoc. There's always these freaking different variants coming out and
Right.
stuff. So it comes with the territory, unfortunately, during these times. Um, that being said, thank you for coming on. We can talk a little bit about some finance stuff, especially from to help social workers, especially we get these jobs or we've been at these jobs and they offer us these benefits, 401k match or group life insurance and this and that. And it's like some of us don't even know like what the heck is all that and how to maximize the full benefits that offer us at work. So we might be leaving a job and leave a 401k
Mm.
sitting there and not knowing you can like roll it over to something else or kind of do like your own plan if you want. So we'll help our fellow social workers out with a little bit of finance stuff and personal finances as we add the fourth quarter of 2023 and I'm already thinking about 2024.
I
So
know, right?
it's fast approaching. So let people know who you are and what you do.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Jillian Knight. I'm not a social worker, but I appreciate social workers because I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. So very closely related, but not the same. And I am also a financial therapist. So I am in Raleigh, North Carolina, is where I live. And so I have a therapy practice for financial therapy. And then I also started a more of a financial coaching, sort of financial wellness coaching for women. Um, and that is, I can work with anybody in the US doing that. And then also some speaking along with that. And yeah, so my focus is really on helping people improve their relationship with money while also improving their financial situation through um, a number of different things. And my focus on women is, as you might imagine, directly related to my own personal life experience. And I'm happy to tell you more of my story if that's helpful. But I focus on women, and I have a few couples. I don't specialize in couples. I don't want a whole caseload of couples, but I will work with a couple of couples at a time. Um, and yeah, so that's sort of where I'm at now. I worked in, oh gosh, so out of grad school, I worked in a number of different settings. So I worked in like intensive in-home therapy with children and adolescents who are at risk of being taken out of their homes for various reasons. I worked in I did psych evaluations in a psych hospital for adults. I worked briefly, very briefly, in an eating disorder hospital. It was not for me. Um, I have worked in private practice, group practice, had my own practice, closed my own practice, started my own practice again. So I've sort of been all over the place. And sort of the things that sort of informed my path to get where I'm at is becoming a therapist and that whole journey, but then also my own sort of personal finance journey and eventually realizing the connection between those two.
Gotcha. How does one become a financial therapist? Like what type of steps? Because I know there's the financial social work certification. And shout out to Rita for creating that and
Mhm.
spearheading that to a point that is recognized the way it is currently.
Yeah, I've heard great things about her program. There is a certification through the Financial Therapy Association that you can get. And so there's a number of, I think there's, I want to say, I just went to the conference for the FTA, and I think they said somewhere around 85 people certified. So it's not a lot. It's not a lot of people certified yet. Um, it's sort of an interesting thing. So it's basically a separate field that we are trying to establish that fits somewhere between psychotherapy and um, financial planning.
Okay.
Um, but as you can imagine, trying to create like a whole separate field that doesn't exist yet takes time,
Mm-hmm.
and there aren't really a lot of regulations around who can call themselves a financial therapist at this point. Unfortunately, I think so. You have licensed therapists like myself and I haven't finished the certification yet. I still need to take a test, but I've done all sort of like the educational parts of it. You have therapists who have experience working with clients, and they go through it and get more of like the money related stuff out of it. Um, and then you can get certified that way. You can be a financial planner who's had experience working with financial planning clients, go through the certification, and usually they're trying to learn um, more of the psychology and emotional aspects of money relationship stuff that they don't generally get trained in most of that
Right.
unless they go through like a specialized program. And then you have some financial coaches that have gone through it. And so it's sort of like the Wild West of financial therapy, still, where we're all sort of still figuring out what it is and what we're doing, and trying to do it within our own sort of disciplines, until there's some real formal regulations or like guidelines around who can practice and what is it and what does it look like and all that. So um, the answer is it depends, but there's a growing number of people doing it. It's sort of interesting because so what happened was there were financial planners and therapists who came together and started working together with clients,
Right.
because the financial planners don't get that training. The therapists, I don't know about you, but I didn't get any training in money or how to talk about money,
Right.
except you're probably not going to make a lot. That's like the only time someone talks about money. You're not going to make money as a therapist. So
Right.
which then leads to all of these other issues that therapists now have about money. But and I'm sure social workers, I say therapists, I mean like social workers,
Yeah.
marriage and family counselors, sort of, that's how I group them together. Um, And yeah, so people will come to me saying, well, I met with a financial advisor, but they couldn't really I couldn't really talk to them about like my feelings about it or like what's going on in my relationship related to money. And then I can't really talk to my therapist about it because they don't really seem like they feel comfortable talking about money, or I'm not sure that it's something that I can bring up in therapy. So that's kind of where people end up coming to me. So yeah.
That that's that's interesting. That it's almost like, we talk about like title protection in social work, and it's like kind of like that fine line that you mentioned, like being like regulated, and yes, there is this financial social work certification, but what you're saying, how you got started is definitely separate from that, and trying to figure out how does that work, but at the same time, like yeah, you can be MS. Sounds like you could be graduate from an MSW program, and if you that's the realm you want to go to, you can. You just got to do like a separate certification for that. Is am I hearing that correctly?
Like, could you have a MS? Could you get an MSW
Yeah,
and then become a certified financial therapist?
yeah,
So, I think technically you might be able to. I think that it's really hard. It's really hard because it's a lot of like what you call yourself,
yeah,
right? And you have to make it clear to the public like what you are doing. So there, you can get a certification in financial therapy, but the certification is really meant to be like a base level knowledge, like base level of education, not necessarily like a this person is certified to practice financial
yeah,
therapy. So because it's still a new thing and there's this whole like whole money psychology, emotions of money and mental health,
yeah.
um, like there's a lot of people who are getting into it, which is great, because that's a huge area of need that I'm certainly seeing
Yes.
in getting further into this work. Um, and it's sort of like we're all trying to figure out how to help people, but also like not do harm and like stay within our scope, I guess, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. That's kind of where I was trying to get at, like try not to do harm to the public based
Yeah.
on the code, our code of ethics at the same time. Like, okay, we could do the work and just try to make sure there is a certification to it, that there's more people like call themselves such and such, and then like there's also definitely, at least recently, in the financial space, and thanks to Instagram in the last 3 years, a lot of these like IG gurus talk about finances, and there's like a lot of scamming like going on. That's been kind of popular in terms of what's happening right now, and so kind of like be careful, like to do no harm to clients. At the same time, you try to like actually do the work and try to get clients. So it's kind of like this muddy middle that we kind of like sort of in right now.
Oh, you're breaking up a little bit. Sorry.
Oh, it's, like I said, like we can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're better.
Okay, so now I would say like we kind of like there's like murky middle going on in terms of like the financial space as a whole. There's a lot of like scamming and going on with like these IG gurus, and like there's like
Mm,
us in like the social work space who that met a lot of social workers, especially this year, who are talk about money and
mm,
finances, and which is great. And that's something that, like you said, is definitely needed in the space. And like we got student loans that we like started to
mm, mm,
some of us started to pay back
mm,
uh
mm.
at, from like last month in October, and currently. So it's like there's a lot going on in terms of finances, and like COVID. We're still dealing with the aftermath of COVID. How does that look like in terms of finances, and there's a lot of stuff in terms of finances that's happening. A lot of good and a lot of bad right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think people are really struggling with sort of the combination of inflation, student loans coming back, right? Like the housing market's not great. Like
Right.
um uh yeah. So yeah, I see that too for sure. It's sort of a and then like you add on like the holidays are coming. And it's like
Yeah, then I had like seasonal affective disorder and like grief and loss type of deal
mhm.
on top of that too. So it's just a lot going on all at the same time. It'll use like the domino effect of things happening,
Yeah.
and not to mention like all the stuff throughout the world that's
Oh my gosh.
happening. All
Yeah.
these different
Don't get me started.
all the different conflicts that's happening and natural disasters that are not being covered by like uh the mass media and stuff like that. So it's just a lot of stuff happening all at the same time.
Yeah.
So you tell a little bit about your story, like how like is there like some happening that made you like you mentioned all these different tough jobs that you've had
Mm.
and like okay, let me do this financial piece and work with clients and helping them with their finances. How did that get started for you?
Yeah, great question. I grew up what would I would consider like lower middle class. Like we had what we needed, but not always what we wanted, sort of thing. And I didn't learn much about money growing up, like most of us. And my um really like the message I got was like I was the kid in my family that was like this supposed to go to college and like get a really good job and also find a man and get married and have kids and like be supported, right? And um I met my husband in college, and he grew up with less money than I did. And my parents didn't really know much about student loans except like you need to do the FAFSA kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I grew up in Florida and I did not want to stay in Florida. And so I ended up coming to North Carolina for college, but that also meant that I went out of state for college for 4 years out of state. And then I went to a really cool grad school program for 3 years, also out of state, because I did not have a concept of really what I was signing up for. Like you do, right? Like they tell you what you're signing, but
Yeah.
our brains don't fully develop till we're 25 and we're signing this paperwork that we're going to pay off these loans when we get a job as a therapist. Yeah. So and my grad program was outside of DC, so it was like really high cost of living area. And anyway, so my husband took out loans to go to law school,
Mm.
lots of loans to go to law school. And we pretty much had the same amount really going into marriage. And we hadn't really been paying attention to our loans. We didn't really, neither one of us like knew a whole lot about personal finance. So we got married and we knew that it was the thing that like we disagreed on, that he tended to want to hold on to money and any money that I spent, like he was like, oh, you're going to spend too much money, when really it wasn't like a whole lot of money. And I was just like, oh, I want that thing, so I'm going to buy it, la la la. And so we just like had a really tense relationship around that. And
Right.
being the marriage and family therapist that I am, knew that that was something we were going to have to work on if we wanted to be happy. So
Right.
we are in North Carolina in the South, and the the only thing that we knew was Dave Ramsey.
Uh, Good
Yeah,
old Uncle Dave.
yeah. So we jumped into the Dave Ramsey plan like head first. We jumped in the Kool-Aid. We looked at our student loans and had $364,000 in student loans, and we were making 95 combined.
Mm.
So that's a lot of interest every month that we are
Yes.
tacked on. So we so I had kept, so at this point I was still keeping like the therapy is over here and money stuff is over here. And I just felt very uneducated because I was on personal finance, right? Because if you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And I the that program was very much like, here is the solution to your problem.
Right.
And here is like this like older guy that could have been my uncle
Right.
with all this financial wisdom that I didn't have. Um, and we all these people are, making progress with this. So this is our thing. We're going to do this. And so we did it for like 3 years. We got on a strict budget. We didn't go out to eat. We didn't go out with friends. We didn't go on vacations. I worked in my very traumatic jobs.
Mm.
Um, and we paid off loans. That was our life for 3 years. And I would hear him talk about like things that I didn't agree with, like values wise.
Right.
But I would sort of set it aside and listen for the financial advice. But once 2020 happened and the world sort of caught on fire, his
Literally.
reaction to systemic racism and other things, I just couldn't listen to him anymore. So I had connected with, I don't know if you've heard of the debt free community on Instagram.
No, I'm
But
not familiar.
so I think it was like 2016, this group of us who were doing the Dave Ramsey thing. Somebody started a hashtag of like the debt, like hashtag debt free community.
Right.
And we all had accounts where we were like posting about our debt free journey, and there are still people doing it. So no shame there, right? Like do your thing.
Right.
And at first it was like we're all following Dave Ramsey's plan, and then people started to do different things, which was good
Right.
and more balanced and more in line with their values and their specific needs. And we realized like, oh, people are doing it differently and they seem really happy about it. So we're going to try something else. So we paid down a ton of debt in that time and after that time. But then we like increased our emergency fund and started having joy in life again, and putting money back into our like, going on trips and things that we wanted to do. So um, all of that sort of led me to thinking I wanted to be a financial coach. So then I had a therapy practice. I got really burnt out doing therapy and closed that practice. Um, Took a break, worked for like a Medicaid insurance company doing like care coordination, case management type stuff,
Right.
um, which was good because guess what? I got those really good benefits,
Mm.
um, that I missed terribly. And had a child and started to figure out like, what do I want to do with my life at this point? And I thought I wanted to be a financial coach. I talked to some financial coaches and then thought that, I mean, I still like the aspects of what I do that has to do with the financial coaching.
Right.
Um, and I also bring my skills as a therapist, and my understanding of how like relationships and people work, um, to this financial therapy thing. And so when I knew of financial therapy sort of very vaguely, but I met a bunch of people doing it and or trying to do it.
Right.
And I was like, this is like, I started to sort of sort through my own stuff that I still had left over from following Dave Ramsey
Right.
and my own work around like my childhood stuff around money. Um, and then was like, I could do this. Like I could help people do this. So that's sort of my very long-winded answer to your
No, I
question.
like that, and I appreciate your candor and mentioning Dave Ramsey in terms of it's funny because I was listening to his podcast and I find it informative, like sort of as I started like 2019 is kind of like I really kind of started at least learning a little bit more about like the finances. I was thinking about moving out of state. By the way, Raleigh is a beautiful city. That was like my first city I visited
Oh, really?
during COVID, like 2021. That's like my first big thing I did
Oh,
during
why Raleigh?
pandemic. Not far. It was like some remote. It was a little like a dirt road. At like my wife's cousin's house. Like
Oh, okay.
maybe like 15-20 minutes from the ice hockey arena.
Okay.
The only
Yeah.
reason I remember the ice hockey arena was like why is all this traffic? It's like, oh yeah, the Hurricanes got a playoff game going on. So that's how I
Yeah. Yeah.
remember.
Yeah.
Uh
Nice.
yes, I drove to Duke University and took a picture outside Cameron Indoor Stadium and saw the
Ah,
football field. So I wanted to do that. So. Excuse me. Like I said, still dealing with COVID. The aftermath.
yeah.
So yeah, so listening to Uncle Dave, has he's been affectionately known during the pandemic and post-pandemic
Mm-hmm.
times, and listen to the podcast, listen to it, and like thinking about moving out of state, which I eventually did move to Delaware and like try to buy a house and just kind of like listen and kind of like some of his stuff, and I read one of his books, I think like Total Makeover or something like that, whatever it's called. Read that, like got a little something out of it, and then like some of his stuff, like you mentioned, like the value stuff, and like once 2020 came and like 2021, it was like we're not listening to Uncle Dave anymore. Kind of went like out of favor in some of his stuff, and like the basics, like the snowball effect. Like yes, like people, that's like the main thing people use of his. But besides that, he's been like not the basher, but people have been falling out of favor with him, uh, to say the least. And like that, been
Mm-hmm.
more people color kind of take over
Yep.
or stuff, and really kind of like more like black and brown folks talk about finances, and that kind of became like the financial literacy kind of became like the go to phrase is like we all in this now, and kind of like
Mm-hmm.
and then I started like I mentioned earlier, like especially this year, met quite a few people like who are social workers by trade, talk about finances and kind of like it kind of changing my business model in working through basic financial and talking to people like and people still struggling with basic financial like terminology and things of
Yeah.
that nature, and changing my business model around to help fellow Gen Xers, people of color, with
Mhm.
helping with their money situation, doing like want to do like a financial psychosocial and come up with like a
Yeah.
treatment plan or so they can feel more financial stability. So any
Nice.
Gen Xers listening to the podcast, by all means reach out because I'm looking for clients to work with. So
Yeah. Okay.
um so yeah, so that is so you funny how you mentioned Dave Ramsey, his story, like a little bit. And now I appreciate that honesty because
Oh.
you kind of mix you know religion and like everything that happened in 2020 with 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 everything from Breonna Taylor, George Floyd to
Hmm.
freaking Agent Orange literally every day doing something crazy, and the
Mhm.
insurrection that took place is like, and now he's trying to run again for president. We got Biden, who's like not he's not the answer either. So like now we kind of stuck.
What are we doing?
What I waited for like AOC to turn
Oh my
35.
gosh, please bring on AOC. AOC for president any day. I will
or
vote for her.
Hassan Jeffries or somebody else. But we gotta wait till 28 for that. So we got
Yeah,
another long 4 years ahead of us. But anyway,
yeah. I would
uh,
love to see a female president. Oh my gosh, please.
it's funny because I saw
Not
Hillary.
any female president.
It's
Let's be
funny you
clear.
mentioned the female because like Hillary Clinton, I saw was on the View again. It
Mm-hmm.
was like, and it's funny because like everything like she said warned actually like came true, and I wasn't like the biggest Hillary supporter. I was like, for me, this is me talking. Like, if you want to talk about rants and social rants, like
Yeah, sure.
you lost twice. You lost to an African American man and you lost to a con man twice. I don't want to hear a word you guys say anymore. It's like just be with Bill, like in private, enjoy your foundation, make all these millions of dollars that you make. And that's it. No, like no mas. Like
Mm-hmm.
and the Democratic Party screw Bernie in 2016 to begin with anyway.
Yeah.
So because Bernie galvanized all, all the young 18 to 24 people age range at the time. Like Hillary didn't do that. So anyway, that's my
Going super political today.
that's my political rant. Take it for what it's worth.
Okay.
Uh, this is me come at Bash for that. So but what she said was true, but I don't want to hear from her again. Like I like
Yeah.
done. Like happy you lost. Take your two L's and go on with your life. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if I gotta pick her or Biden, I'm picking her. So
Yeah.
because I'm literally this close to writing myself in for writing for president because I'm not voting for Biden.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Anyway.
like we talked offline briefly about like we social workers, we start this job and they offer this benefits package as part of like
Mm,
the salary, and then we talk about for, a lot of these companies don't even offer a 401k, like, especially like a nonprofit sector. If they do, is like a 403b, and it's like
mhm,
kind of half-assed. You got to stay at the job for at least make it a full year before you can even, or stay 3 to 5 years before it can even be like vested to even try to even see some of that money. And you gotta
mhm,
like you even gotta budget your own money, the little salary you make it to try to put money into it to really kind of see the benefit of it. So it's like, what can people, social workers, do? Like, you work in a nonprofit or like you have your own like private practice and like, well, I know there's two different things because it's two different. Like, you got to do your own 401k or Roth, whatever, if you do a nonprofit. But if you work in private practice, but somebody who works in a nonprofit, work at a school or something related, do a social work like related nonprofit schools, school social workers, hospitals, social workers. So what can they do like to really maximize these benefits that get their bang out of for their buck?
yeah, I mean, I will say I'm not a benefits expert,
Right.
but my experience has been, I mean, that is one of the that is that the benefits are one of the benefits of working in those settings, right? And I think a big thing is understanding what benefits you even have. And I think for a long time, I got benefits from my first very low paying job. Um, but I didn't really fully understand them. And I, so I think things like sometimes you have a choice of a health plan within it and understanding the difference and whether that relates, like how that relates to your specific situation, um, and like what your medical needs might look like compared to others. Knowing what retirement benefits are either given to you or available to you to access and how those work, whether you have um, whether you're making like a traditional or a Roth contribution to those. So after taxes or before taxes or after before taxes or no, getting taxed now or getting taxed
Right.
later contributions to your retirement. Um, and other things like short-term disability, long-term disability. Do you get a little bit of life insurance? Like there's a whole bunch of different things that could be part of a benefits package. Um, that I think a lot of people, especially if you're younger and you're just coming out of grad school, or even if you're not younger and you're just, you just never learned this stuff because I don't think most people do until you're in the position and then you have to seek out the information yourself a lot of times.
Right.
Um, so I think just knowing what is available to you, and utilizing those as much as you can. Sometimes there's a match on retirement, which is always, good to get if you can afford to make the contributions.
Right.
Um, and the longer you have money in the market in your retirement, the better. So start early if you can, because I didn't. And yeah, so those are some things I think that, yeah, those are some things I would say. I think that a lot of people, I'm curious to know your perspective, but I think a lot of people sort of who have jobs with benefits and are in things, social work and similar fields, um, also have something on the side a lot of times.
Oh, you should. Uh, I know for me, like what I've experienced, uh, like the last like few jobs, I don't know if it's been like a growing trend or whatever, but
Mhm.
I know when I started the job, even the job I got now, like I never met the human resources person at my job. Everything was through email or through phone,
Mm-hmm.
but to like have questions about benefits, just email the person. Okay, well, like now, like you mentioned 401k, like I had to stay at the job for a year, which I've already done a year to
Mm-hmm.
even to even put money into the 401k, which I found like really weird, really dumb
Yeah.
because I wanted to start already and then to work at a job a whole year before do it. And then they changed like companies now, so like I kind of like stuck without any information like how to even like, go about starting to put money in the 401k. I want to, but like I gotta like reach out to HR is to a person I never even met before. And I've
Right.
had other jobs that I've had. Like I had a job like 20. I started a job in 2012, uh, and I didn't meet HR till 2014 when I found out I was getting laid off. That was the first and only time I met HR.
All right.
So it's like it's weird having these jobs. Like I've had other jobs. Like yeah, I'm like I know the HR person by face, and like
Mm-hmm.
okay, we gotta communicate through email, fine, but at least I know like who you are, your face, and like
Yeah.
we spoke in person at least once or twice or whatever, or hand deliver you documents or whatever. And like those, I think those days, I might be wrong, but my experience, those days are kind of like over. I don't know, it's because like, COVID what happened, but even before COVID, I've like had jobs and never seen the HR in person. So it's just find it weird, and it makes things hard. Like if you got questions and the job offers you a 401k or like or these other benefits that you can put money into an account or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and like that's money that's coming out of whether pre-tax or post-tax from your
Yeah.
check that's going into the stuff that
And you might
could
have,
benefit you and that you still don't know, got questions that you can't even don't even know the person's face of who you try to deal with to get answers to. So it's
yeah. Yeah, I think it really depends on the company too.
yeah.
Yeah.
And even now, like with like you mentioned student loans earlier, and like I'm a known job hopper, and to go back to now you gotta find HR people you used to work at and like try to get the signatures for the student loan forgiveness and like
Mm-hmm.
people people leave jobs in HR. You try to figure out who's the HR person right now, and it's like, luckily for me, I've like kept good relationships with past coworkers, so like somebody will know somebody who might still
Mhm.
work at these old previous jobs and able to finally get these documents signed
Yeah.
and send it to damn Mohilia. Freaking suck.
Yeah, my husband and I have come up with nicknames for Mohila and Nelnet, but I will not share them here.
Oh, what's the nickname? Nah,
But
what's the nickname for
oh no, I'm not.
I had a better experience with Nonet than I do Mohila. Mohila is like,
Really? I had a really bad experience trying to get Nelnet to take our money. We had saved up, so we haven't, so we paid down a lot of student loan debt. We are still not done.
right.
We still have student loans, and we had saved up some money during COVID while things were paused, um, to throw at it once they started again. And so I had this chunk of money, and I was trying to pay them, and like I saved our payment information, and I was trying to pay it, and it kept coming back saying that something was an issue with our financial institution. And that was crap because eventually I was able to pay it just manually entering it in instead of using the auto pay when it was like the same bank account. So anyway, that's my rant about student loans, everything.
Oh, it's crazy. Like, especially like, basically the interest was paused, so that would all that money will went right into the principal, which is the whole idea of you trying to pay down the debt. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
and,
Yeah.
and they
And
still
like
try to.
every day that they weren't taking my money, I was like, interest is accruing. Please take my money.
It's a hot mess, which is
Yeah. We
but
do
like
what we
but
can.
like but like Tupac said, they got money for wars but can't feed the poor.
Yeah.
It's just student loans are
A
is
burden.
it's a huge financial burden and it's
Yeah.
affecting a lot of people, and with inflation like you mentioned earlier going on, like these prices are ridiculous. The gas don't know what to do with themselves. Like one day is like cheap and then it jumps like 20 cents like
Yeah.
literally like 12 hours later. It's like make up your mind what you want to do because I'm trying to save a couple bucks here and there.
Yeah.
And every little bit helps, so it's like
Right.
it's interesting time we we live into, to say the least, in terms of finances, just for everybody, not just, I mean, this is a social work podcast, but especially for us, for social workers who many of us like risked our lives during the pandemic. It's the least you could do is pay our student loans. Like the government has proven time and time again, they got the money and just
Mhm.
pay it. Like you already have like our information, you have our social security number, we file our taxes every year. You already know we in the field of public service. Like just pay. If you work in public service, boom, done. Pay off. You have the money. I don't understand.
Yeah.
And if you want, like they, like I always said, like if you wanted to be a police officer, firefighter, nurse, doctor, whatever, like those fields pay off. And if you want your student loans and you're not in none of these fields, you got to be in those fields and you're helping, recruitment. That's a way to help with recruitment. You gotta be in those fields when you want your student loans paid. But
Mhm.
what do I know? See, that's why you gotta put me in for write-in vote for 2024. How's 2023 been for you? Like, we winding down.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I actually left my job earlier this year back in May. May. And transitioned to financial therapy and coaching. And yeah, it's been a lesson in entrepreneurship, entrepreneurship, and just trying to figure out what this financial therapy thing is that we're trying to do, what the need is, and how to fill it. And I've met a lot of people, so I've connected with a lot of people over the last 6 to 8 months or so, and sort of found my people within the financial therapy space. And then also I found I've met with my share of financial advisors for networking reasons. And I've actually met a few, so they're not all created equally. And some of them are very, no offense, but a good number of the men that I've met with tend to be very transactional and what can you do for me? And then very bro like.
Yeah.
They're also all white guys. So like finance bros. But yeah. Uh who are probably conservative or at least want people to think they're conservative, but they're secretly not. And those aren't my people. And so I've met with several, even some of the women I've met with are sort of questionable, but there's a handful of people that I have met in the financial services industry that are trying to do things differently than people have always done them, who are trying to sort of focus on the human side of finances. And that's been really refreshing. I actually met with a guy today who's doing some really awesome work, making financial planning accessible to people that traditionally wouldn't have been able to access it. So,
I like that.
yeah, so I'm really trying to connect a lot with people with shared values, people who aren't just trying to make a bunch of money to make a bunch of money.
Right.
And my thing is like, I think that when women have more money, the world is a better place. Um, and so I feel pretty passionate about improving things for women. And I think that my way of doing that is helping them with their relationship with money, and then also sort through sort of the personal finance stuff that helps them to improve their financial situation. So,
and it's been proven that women are make better choices in terms of picking stocks and
yeah, they're better
so
investors.
better investors. Exactly, that's the
Yeah.
wording I'm looking for.
No, you're good. No, yeah. Women are more likely to they're more likely to hold on to things long term and um not like allow the market to impact, you know, their make them like change it all the
Yeah.
time. And they're more likely to do their research in terms of what they're investing in. And yeah, so ha. So anyway,
It's a fact. As a man, I cannot deny that. That's something I learned uh this year. So that's a fact.
well, and then the other thing is when women have more money, they are more likely also to invest more in their communities,
Mhm.
generally speaking. And so then you have like, and also women are the caretakers of families a lot of times. Um, Generally, we're sort of socialized to be, you know, the caretakers, the maintain the relationships and stuff. And so then it's also benefiting when women have more money, it benefits families and communities. So that also leads to women having money, and sometimes money is power, and can lead to changes, hopefully one day, in things like you know, rights of women and things.
Exactly.
So that's
Uh,
sort of like my mission right now.
I like that.
That's been 2023 so far. It's been quite a year.
No, it's definitely been a year, definitely.
Yeah.
What what are goals for 2024?
Yeah. I have done a little bit of speaking this year. But I have some goals for doing more speaking in 2024. Um, and I am really sort of setting some goals around sort of like clarifying um, who I'm working with, exactly how I'm helping them, sort of just getting really clear on my the focus of my business going forward. Because it's really just I'm really just getting started. So really looking for sort of clarity and putting some systems in place and building a strong foundation for what's to come.
We in the same boat because I'm also looking into doing more speaking engagements.
Yeah.
I've done some this year and definitely the building blocks regarding my business and
Mhm.
trying to find the clients that I want to serve and like
Yeah.
finally came up with the ideal client I want to serve. And I was just trying to put the messaging and everything together
Yeah. It's a
and
process.
yeah, it's definitely a process. Entrepreneurship is not to be played with. And
It's a roller coaster.
definitely racked up some unnecessary business debt along the way. So you
Yeah.
learn,
You
and
did too.
2024 will be a good year in terms of finances. On the business side, 2023 was actually pretty good, but
Nice.
you live and you learn, and truck along and move forward.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, so where can people find you?
Yeah, sure. So I am on Instagram at Her Financial Therapy. And my website is herfinancialtherapy.com.
Awesome. Great chatting with you.
Yeah, you too. Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
No, absolutely.